The last time Chaudhry Javed saw his wife was over a year ago. The Pakistani trader in dried and fresh produce was leaving their home in northwestern China's heavily Muslim Xinjiang region to go back to his country to renew his visa. He remembers the last thing she told him: "As soon as you leave, they will take me to the camp, and I will not come back." That was August 2017. By then, Ada and Amina Minaji, from the Muslim ethnic Uighur group native to Xinjiang, had been married for 14 years. Share this article. Ada is one of scores of Pakistani businessmen, and he says there are more than 200 whose spouses have disappeared, taken to what Chinese authorities tell them are education centers. Beijing has been accused of interning members of its Muslim population, by some reports as many as 1 million, to re-educate them away from their faith. It is seen as a response to riots and violent attacks that the government blamed on separatists. Ethnic Uyghurs and Kazakhs in China have told the Associated Press that ostensibly innocuous acts such as praying regularly, viewing a foreign website, or taking phone calls from relatives abroad could land one in a camp. They call them schools, but they are prisons, Ada said. They can't leave. Pakistanis often rally loudly in defense of Islam and Muslims whenever they are perceived offended around the world, most recently over cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. In 1989, protests spread from Pakistan elsewhere, leading to the fatwa by Iran's Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini against author Salman Rushdie for his depiction of Islam in his book Satanic Verses. But political and economic factors, including concerns about losing out on vast Chinese investments, have kept Pakistan and other Muslim countries silent about the plight in China of fellow Muslims, the Uyghurs. Cold, hard interests will always carry the day in international relations, said Michael Kugelman, Deputy Director of the Asia Program at the Washington-based Wilson Center. The Muslim world's deafening silence about China's treatment of Muslims can be attributed to its strong interest in maintaining close relations with the world's next superpower. China is financing major development projects in cash-strapped Pakistan. Islamabad says Beijing's up to $75 billion development project known the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, part of an effort to reconstruct the historic Silk Road linking China to all corners of Asia, will bring new prosperity to Pakistan, where the average citizen lives on just $125 a month. For Ada, it's not just the separation from his wife. He has also had to leave their 2 sons, who are 5 and 7 years old, and whose passports were confiscated by the Chinese government, in the care of his wife's family. Otherwise, he said, the authorities would have put them in an orphanage. The AP has previously reported that the government is placing the children of detainees and exiles into dozens of orphanages across Xinjiang. Ada went back to China twice for a few months, but both times his visas expired, and he had to return to Pakistan. Getting in touch with family in Xinjiang is a circuitous route that involves reaching out to Pakistani friends still there, who then track down family members willing to talk. Now especially I'm worried. It is now 8, almost 9 months, that I have not seen my children, he said. I haven't even been able to talk to them. Last week, Ada finally talked to his brother-in-law after a friend discovered he had a heart attack and was recovering in a hospital in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang. He said my sons were good, but he had no news of my wife, said Ada. Whor the Chinese Muslims are not a new presence in China. Most of China's Muslim communities, including the Uyghurs and Kazakhs, have lived in China for more than 1,000 years, according to Fact Tank Pew Research Center. The largest concentrations of Muslims today are in the western provinces of Xinjiang, Ningxia, Qinghai, and Gansu. A substantial number of Muslims live in the cities of Beijing, Xi'an, Tianjin, and Shanghai. They make up about 2% of the 1.4 billion population in China. However, as the country is so populous, its Muslim population is expected to be the 19th largest in the world in 2030. The Muslim population in China is projected to increase from 23.3 million in 2010 to nearly 30 million in 2030. Typically, those in the Han Chinese majority, including policymakers in Beijing, have little knowledge about Islam and thus view it as a threat, according to South China Morning Post. At the same time, radical Muslim Uyghurs have killed hundreds in recent years, causing China to implement even more extreme measures to quash potential separatist movements. Uyghurs in particular have long been used to heavy-handed curbs on dress, religious practice and travel after a series of deadly riots in 2009 in Urumqi, according to the Financial Times. School children were banned from fasting during Ramadan and attending religious events, while parents were banned from giving newborns Muslim names such as Muhammad and Jihad. Certain symbols of Islam, such as beards and the veil, were also forbidden. Women with face-covering veils are sometimes not allowed on buses. Unauthorized pilgrimages to Mecca were also restricted. China routinely responds to queries on Uyghurs by saying its policies are aimed at creating stability and lasting peace in Xinjiang, but President Xi Jinping's campaign to subdue a sometimes restive region, including the internment of more than 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities, has alarmed a United Nations panel and the U.S. government. Mushabib Hussain, chairman of Pakistan's Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, said that the cardinal principle of Pakistan-China relations is to refrain from commenting on anything to do with the other country's domestic issues. Given the relationship of Pakistan with China, and in the Muslim world in particular, the Chinese narrative is apparently being accepted across the board as the one that is correct, Hussain said. A steady stream of Pakistani men has visited Beijing in recent months lobbying for the release of their wives to little avail. Some say they met Pakistan's ambassador to China, Masood Khalid, on multiple occasions, and we were told their issues were raised privately with the Chinese. Another Pakistani man in a similar predicament, Mira Man, went to China more than 25 years ago as a poor laborer in search of work. There, he met his wife, Mahir Bengal. They worked hard and eventually bought a hotel. The couple has two daughters, Shahnaz, 16, and Shakila, 12, both now with their father in Pakistan. Last year, a man first tried to go back to China alone, but the authorities denied him entry at a border crossing without his wife. Then they returned together to Xinjiang. There, she was ordered to report every morning to the police, who gave her books on the Communist Party to read. When they would see anything written in Urdu, a prayer mat or something related to religion, they would seize it, he said. They want to eliminate Islam. After a few weeks, a man was ordered to leave, even though he had a 6-month visa. He was told he could return after 1 month. When he did, his wife was gone. For 4 months he pestered police every day, threatened to take his life in public. He was finally allowed to see his wife, who was brought to a local police station, for just an hour. They cried. When the meeting ended, he was told to go home to Pakistan and stop making trouble for the administration, a man said. He has no idea where she is being held.